Welcome to Ridgewood Talks. Through this podcast, we will be introducing you to some of the leaders and legends in our village. We'll keep you updated about fascinating local events. We'll dig into the town's hot topics and so much more. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Jeannie Johnson, the founder of Ridgewood Talks and Ridgewood Walks. The goal of these initiatives is to create a kinder, more connected, and more vibrant community. I'm thrilled to be hosting this podcast with my good friend and all-around wonderful guy, Jordan Kaufman. We look forward to meeting with you weekly and hearing your thoughts on who and what you'd like to learn about in our beautiful hometown. For now, be kind, do good, and enjoy this episode. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to Ridgewood Talks. As always, we're here to keep you in the loop about all the people and the stories that make Ridgewood such a special place. And a few months ago, we invited the Ridgewood Public Schools superintendent to be a regular part of these video casts. And thanks to Mark Schwartz and the communication director, Christine Corliss, we now have a great lineup of school community leaders to highlight. And today, we're kicking things off with someone who has deep Ridgewood roots, Mark Kossick. He is the president of the Ridgewood High School Alumni Association. Now, if you're not familiar with the Alumni Association, here's a little backstory. It was founded 10 years ago by a group of really engaged graduates led by then principal Tom Gorman, and it's been going strong ever since. And we're going to get into that and all the great work they're doing in just a bit. But first, I want to talk about Mark because his story is one worth hearing. Mark moved to Ridgewood in 7th grade and immediately made an impression. He was a standout athlete, lettering in football, basketball, tennis, swimming, and even captained both the tennis and football teams. And I believe he shared that distinction of the football alongside his best friend, NBC superstar Willie Geist. After graduating from Ridgewood High School in 1993, he went to Williams College and then spent some time traveling the world and working for the NBA, but I might tell you it was not as a basketball player. Eventually, he made his way back home to Ridgewood, where he and his family are now settled after a very tumultuous start, which we'll go into. And these days, Mark is the co-founder and CEO of GroupSpot, the super popular app that many of you use to keep your teams and schools and clubs organized. Mark and his fellow Ridgewood High School alum, Neil Blaney, created the app as a private, ad-free way to help communities stay connected. I got to tell you, it's making a real difference. So, Mark, Jordan and I are here, and we want to get into it. So welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you, Jeannie. That was quite an introduction. Great to be here with you and Jordan.
Well, let's get things cleared up right off the gate. Tell me about your career with the NBA.
You were correct in saying I was not a basketball player. I was actually so bad at basketball that I had to leave the high school team as a junior. And I actually ended up joining the swim team, and then played CYO basketball my senior year. But I did love the game. It was during the time, early 1990s. It was, if you grew up in that time, you knew that Michael Jordan was ruling the world. It was coming out of the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. It was the first time NBA players were allowed to compete in an Olympic game. They just took over the world. And, I just was always fascinated, from early days in the 80s, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, that whole, 80s basketball into the 90s. And I just said, if I could ever be around the game, not necessarily a player, it was kind of a dream job when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Oh my gosh, good for you. So what exactly did you do for them?
So I was in production originally, and then I kind of segued over to the global content media distribution business, which was licensing our live game products. It was fascinating. My last big assignment for the National Basketball Association was living over in London, growing NBA basketball across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I was lucky because there were so many Europeans in the National Basketball Association, and it was a growing number, and it actually continues to get more and more. And if you look at the last, half dozen NBA MVPs, they're all European players.
That's true. That is true.
So it's really remarkable how the game has
Do you take
changed.
credit for that?
No, I wish. Between you and I, sure. Why not?
Why not? Nobody's listening. You can say that. Yeah. Well,
So-
what an exciting career.
Yeah, it
And
was
then
great.
you
It was great.
decided, okay, I've had enough of that. I'm going to come back to Ridgewood. Tell us the story, how you ended up back in Ridgewood.
Well, I was on a 3-year assignment, and so I had a few choices to kind of do what I had just done in London for 3 years over in Hong Kong. But my wife, at that point, her parents were getting older and said, we're going to go back to America. And, it was about that time that I knew that that was probably not going to be a step forward because really going over to an international office was like working at a startup, really. We were outside the purview of the big company, but we were running a pretty sizable business in that part of the world. And I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had been a serial angel investor in a few things. Really had a much admiration and respect for founders, just in general. Those are the people that I
Grind.
yeah, it's just really difficult, and people that can do it, it's really just earned my respect. So at the time, I was 45 years old. I ended up partnering with an old classmate from Ridgewood High School, who I had invested in years prior.
Oh, wow.
And, we had a nice exit together, and we said, if we ever do this again, you can do the tech and I'll do the sales and marketing. And then that's kind of how we came together on this project, GroupSpot.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what GroupSpot is, most of the town is all connected to it in some way. So for the people who don't know what GroupSpot is, can you explain a little bit about what it does?
Sure. GroupSpot is just think of it as an all-in-one communications platform, really designed to replace running your group on email, group text, and enterprise software. So there's this really massive underserved audience. We knew that for us, the kind of the key pillars of what we were designing for was privacy. Because at the time, it was like between 2015 and 2020, when I was relying on very public platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter in my part of the world to grow the game of NBA basketball because I couldn't license the live games because it was airing in the middle of the night. So the way to grow that business was through digital platforms, a lot of times in language. And it was at that time during those years that the news was getting negative and sour, and there was data breaches. If you remember Cambridge Analytica, there was, people in front of Congress paying billions of dollars of fines. It was just, what they told you was supposed to be fun and free began to feel like neither. And I was like, you know what? People are going to increasingly think differently about their privacy. So I knew that privacy, being ad-free, algorithm-free, influencer-free, unsearchable groups, was probably the first piece of the pie. And then we said, hey, well, we can't grow a $100 million business on privacy alone. There were other people like Telegram and others doing it at the time, although Telegram is a chat app. But so people were thinking about that. And I said, well, what we need to do is take all the utility of all those single-purpose apps that we use on an everyday basis, Sign Up Genius, Google Forms, all the RSVP apps, payment apps, and let's build that inside GroupSpot. So we took the privacy, the utility, and then lo and behold, when you put people in a private environment and they're all tethered around a singular purpose, whether it's a team, a faith group, nonprofit, trade association, booster club, it doesn't really matter. Boy Scouts, there's just tons of groups, Greek in college. They actually show up, they use their real names, they use their real photos because they're not hiding behind fake avatars, fake names, and spewing that kind of negativity because you can easily get also punished for behaving like that in a private group, easily tossed out. So, and that was where the community came in because people were just like, hey, we're all together on this one singular purpose, and we care about this thing, and everything's very supportive. So we've seen a lot of that, and we were lucky to have Ridgewood be, on the ground level of all this. They were our early beta testers, our early beta groups when we were just kind of developing the technology, and it's been a great marriage, really.
I'm so happy for you. And it is, for those of you who are watching and listening, I mean, if you haven't gotten onto GroupSpot, it is a very comprehensive application. There's so much in any group that you're in. You can learn, it's instant, which is super helpful when you're worried about, as you have your kids going to games and things like that. You want to know, is the field closed? Is it, and right away. You don't have to, it isn't like back in the olden days. So I guess my question is for GroupSpot, how is it monetized, and is there an exit strategy for that? You mentioned that before.
Yes, so we have a subscription tier, so it's a freemium model. So there will always be a free tier and a premium tier.
Gotcha.
And so we're actually just putting up the pay tier now.
Mm-hmm.
So certain features level up into a pay tier, and that's pretty common in tech. But we also have the opportunity, and so that's fantastic. That to me is like our bread and butter, meat and potatoes part of the business. But we also have an opportunity to create enterprise relationships. So we just signed our first enterprise deal last month with a travel company.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was really cool. Great company called Peak AMA, American Music Abroad. And they travel, last summer they traveled 5,000 kids across Europe, mostly Europe, but other places as well.
So it's like high school bands and that
Yeah,
kind
high
of
school
thing?
bands
That's
and
fun.
all-star bands and stuff like that. And they have these really fancy trips. The kids get to play in multiple countries. They do some sightseeing. But the travel company responsible for these kids needed a platform that they could count on, to manage these kids and be responsible, because it's a big responsibility, with young teens. So that was our first enterprise deal. So I think we have the opportunity to do deals like that.
That's a great niche to be in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So we're talking to some other travel companies now, but I think we can also go beyond travel company. I mean, schools, we talk to a lot of schools as well that it's more probably on the private school side where there's probably the funding for it.
Right.
But we could, service an entire, all the teams, all the clubs and activities, and just do a deal like that as well.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So how many people do you have working on your team? And are your offices here in Ridgewood?
So I do a kind of like a WeWork office.
Oh, gotcha.
Used to be called Serendipity Labs, but it changed its
right.
name to Third Base.
Yeah.
Your Third Base. And so I work out of there part-time. We just rebuilt our house, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Yeah.
And I built an office for myself up there, so I probably spend less time in town.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're mostly remote. Tech is remote. The sales folks that I've hired are local-ish. My head of product is actually down in Caldwell, so I drive down and spend my mornings with him. So I don't book meetings in the morning, or try not to.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty manageable. Still small. We've built out a product. We have 100,000 plus people on the platform. Just starting to kind of turn on the revenue side of the business. So we'll probably be adding people. I have a lot of friends now who are like, "Hey, my son, my kid needs internship this summer." I'm starting to get that, so that's actually a good sign that maybe things are going well.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy for you, and I wish you continued success with the application. I'm sure it will be, continue to grow and do really well. But let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about what happened when you moved back to Ridgewood. Tell us that story, because it's really, it really tells a beautiful story about the people who live in Ridgewood and who welcomed their son home and took care of you. So go ahead, tell us what happened.
Yeah, so we came back and trying to figure out how we were going to put this business together and if we were going to move it forward. So we were kind of having those conversations and early development on the technology. It was November 18th of 2020. So the pandemic, we were about 6 months into the global pandemic that started probably about mid-March, let's say, that year. And, we woke up in the middle of the night about 4:30. My wife, she's like a private detective. She heard creaking of the stairs, and she thought one of my children was sneaking out.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was the fire burning, and that was the wood, getting burnt. So she freaked out and started screaming, "Everybody, get your stuff, get out of the house." I got up, and I could tell by how she was screaming that this was real. Like this is not a small little fire. I opened up our door because we all slept with it was I guess most of us, the kids especially, because I've got teens, everybody sleeps with their door closed. And so once we opened up the door, it was black smoke everywhere. And so I knew that, like, okay, this is trouble. So you couldn't see through it. So you just, if you're ever in this situation, you close your eyes, you know where the banisters are, you just reach out and you're riding the banister down. And you're trying to make sure that the kids get out first. So we had 2 boys. My daughter was on the 3rd floor, a dog, my wife, and myself. So we all get out there. The last one coming out was my daughter, and she was holding, I wish I had a photo. She had a fire extinguisher in one hand. She had the dog in the other. She had her head tilted like this with the cell phone calling 911.
Oh, my gosh.
At 4:30.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so we're there, and I'm like, this is crazy. And I go,
It's
where's
like a dream,
where's
yeah.
my son, Red?
Oh, geez.
And so he wasn't in the front. So where we all were. So I had to run back in. And I remember taking one breath. I had held it as long as I could, and I had to take one deep breath to kind of find him. So I quickly realized, I heard him screaming. I think he basically went out the back door. He just knew that space better, got out there, so he was fine. But so we finally all kind of convened in the front. I had just taken this giant breath of smoke, black smoke, and I was like, wow, I see why in the movies now, like they tell you, they grab you, you cannot go back into a burning fire. You will die in a second. Just one big breath of this stuff. And so we're out there at 4:30, and we're kind of looking at each other. We're like, well, what do we do? Because we don't know how long the fire trucks are going to take, and we don't know. We're kind of in this weird thing. We don't want to wake up our neighbors at 4:30. but it's November 18th. It was cold night, and it was 4:30 in the morning, so it was really cold. So
and you're in your jammies.
Yeah, so it was a really nuts situation, but. We were displaced about 2 years. We were at a hotel for a while, but then we found a great rental with a great woman, Jeanne Tyson, and she was fantastic to us. She ended up going to California while we were in her house in Ridgewood.
Right.
And I have to tell you that this is why you live in a town like Ridgewood, is the community rallies around you and their people in times of need like this. And, the cards, the meals that were being brought to us, homemade meals, the clothes, people were bringing us printers, like some crazy stuff. And I remember there was a great moment for my kids, especially. They had all these cards, and I go, well, these are labeled for you guys, so you guys open these. And so they go, one child opens it up and goes, well, this one can't be for me. It's from BF, and I didn't go to BF. I went to GW.
Aww.
And they go, I don't understand why they would give me this card. And I go, well, that's what it means to be part of a community, is they're all going to look out for you just because you're from Ridgewood and you're part of that family. So that was a beautiful moment. And they, that really opened their eyes, what it means to be part of something bigger than just your little bubble of a family and be part of a community. Right. So, I'm extremely grateful. We had, teachers, reaching out and doing everything. I mean, the town did everything they could to get us back on our feet.
And you lost everything.
Oh, yeah, we lost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible. And, I mean, it is so true that sometimes through tragedy, your best blessings can come along. And I think you and your kids recognize that. So I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm also glad that you look at it as a positive, that you had a positive experience even through the tragedy of it all. So now, Jordan, I think we're going to jump right into the Ridgewood Alumni Association.
Yeah, let's
quite a segue. I know. I don't know how to jump right into that. But.
I mean, everyone drew a straight line between that story and the Ridgewood Alumni Association, so there's no chance anyone saw it going anywhere else.
So let's do this. So because the community was so good to you, you decided to give back by becoming the president of the Alumni Association. Is that right?
True.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one way to get
I actually think we joined about the same time, Mark, back, I don't know if we were in the same exact initiation or orientation group, but it was about the same time that
2020.
Yeah.
The end of 2020.
And then you became the president just last July.
Correct.
And your first big job was to do the speech at graduate. How was that? What was that like for you?
It was great. It was great. You know, it was a really hot day. I don't know if you remember this. They actually cut a lot of the speakers,
Oh, wow.
and they kept me. And it wasn't because of me. It was because the Alumni
Oh,
Association.
come on, don't be humble.
when there was an amazing tradition that was started from the very beginning, I believe by Keith Dawkins, the first
Okay,
president
yeah.
of the Alumni
Amazing
Association.
guy, by the way.
Yeah,
Another basketball dude right now.
that's right. That's right. Harlem Globetrotters. But so he, in his speech, he asked the entire senior class to stand up. So they're actually facing their parents in the bleachers.
Right.
So when they stand up, he then asked them to turn around and look at the school and say goodbye one last time. Say goodbye as students and say hello as alumni.
What a good, that's
So
brilliant.
it's just a moment that everybody now looks forward to.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, we can't cut you. That's like the signature moment of graduation.
Yeah.
So kudos to Keith and the early days of the team to come up with something like
that
that.
was great.
And now I'm just, the messenger, but it's pretty cool to say, please stand up, and you watch 450 people stand up,
Gosh, yes.
turn, wave goodbye.
Yeah,
It's a pretty powerful moment.
no doubt.
So when you got involved in the Alumni Association, what was like the pull for you? Because obviously coming back to Ridgewood, town you grew up in, you were big into sports. The Alumni Association, honors its former athletes on the board. So, what was the gravity that pulled you into to the black hole?
Well, I had a few things to tell you the truth. One is the president, who had just taken over, Billy McCabe, is a good friend of mine. So he is a great recruiter. He will really pressure you and to get you involved. And so, I was kind of interested to see, selfishly, from my business side, to ask and see if alumni groups would do well on GroupSpot. And I was like, what better way to test the waters than, feel it out with this group potentially. And so that was like a little bit of a pull. And then, but then lo and behold, between Billy and just, I had a great experience at Ridgewood High School. So, and my kids were going through Ridgewood High School. So it couldn't have been a better time. I was totally in tune with everything that's going on. I am one of these crazy people that goes to sporting events and my kids are not even playing because I just enjoy the competition. I go to little theater and I'll see shows, and I just find watching these kids at that age when you think maybe they might fumble, but they always seem to just be able to do these amazing things. And so I just loved being around that environment. So it made sense, and especially with Billy and my friendship with him, that to help him, I was going to coming in a communications role, which was fine, which was probably a good fit for me. But then obviously over time, there was an opportunity to kind of expand the role and join the executive team, and then segue into this new role, which is president. Yeah,
which makes a ton of sense because I know as my wife, who's been involved in trying to do the the alumni kind of get together and everything else, it's a little bit like herding cats.
Yeah.
And where to get the email list from and everything else. So having an organized platform like GroupSpot to run that through makes a ton of sense. But you talked a little bit about some of the reasons why this was the right time. Kids in school, you came back, you're getting involved in watching the programs and all the things that the school does, and it kind of helps you reminisce back to that time when you were here, is what I heard.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I know that when we all graduate college is very aggressive about, hey, you went here, how about a donation? How does that kind of fit in with how you think about Ridgewood High School, the Ridgewood Alumni Association, and is that kind of part of the same picture in your mind?
Raising funds for the Alumni Association?
Well, just the way that I graduated Ridgewood High School, you graduated Ridgewood High School, and we both, I think when we go and we drive by that school and we think back to when we graduated and we look back and it's like say goodbye as students and look at it as alumni. I drive past there. I think about when I went. I think about, when we'd be parking on Hermance and, you try to get your spot early or, do we go to lunch or do we walk to lunch, which when we used to be able to go off campus all the time. How do you think about that, though, as now part of the alumni, seeing the school, Do you get that same kind of feeling that you get when you see your university or your college? You went to Williams College.
Yeah.
Is it kind of the same thing, like hollowed ground and?
Well, I'll tell you truthfully. So I can tell you, I just got a letter. You'll love the story. I got a letter a couple weeks ago. It was from Williams College, and it said, "Well, these are your donations for the last five years," and it was all zeros. And I showed my wife, and I said, "Look what I just want you to know. This is what we're giving." And I at the same time, in that same kind of materials, they'd sent this huge, beautiful brochure, and I read the brochure, and I knew this already, but in the brochure they said they had an endowment of $3.7 billion. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I looked at my wife. I go, they don't need my money. They don't need my energy, my commitment. You know who needs my commitment, my energy, and my focus?
That's right.
Is my high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a clear choice.
Right.
Okay, you're watching what's happening. Like funding will continue to decrease in different capacities. I mean, obviously, government leadership will change over time, but we've seen that trend go down, and you see the rise of these parent groups. Okay, You've got, and this didn't exist like in its sophistication that it does today. So in sports, they're booster clubs or parent groups, essentially. Right. But you also have a number of really great organizations around town that raise money. So Jamboree, they raise over $250,000 every year for senior scholarships. Right. They're incredible. Ridgewood Education Foundation, they do a lot of good work. College Club of New Jersey. So all these groups that need to have kind of risen up to fill that void. And for me, just being part of that, like the old school community, I kind of have that badge of honor because I am alumni. Mm-hmm. I walked those halls. I had those lockers. I understand the stories. Mm-hmm. So I'm really in tune with what's going on, and because of that, I feel like we can we're in a great position to help the school. Close some of the gaps that they can't close on their own, because they have to do, in the way, the opportunities have kind of, been presented to us is, their focus is, from a school point of view, is really the hardcore, capital projects, the boilers, the windows. We're interested in the more cosmetic, outward-facing projects.
The library, the STEM,
the STEAM initiative that we just did, 2 years ago.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
I totally.
I mean, that's when we look at some of the great, things that the Alumni Association has done. I mean, that's one that clearly needs to be, put in lights a little bit.
Yeah, that's number one. So we were just incredibly lucky to have an alumnus named Dave Duffield, class of 1958. Brilliant man. He was a baseball player, loved math. He had a perfect score on his math SAT. He's from Hohokus, but it was back in a time when Hohokus went to Ridgewood High School.
Right.
And he and his brother Al both attended Ridgewood High School, had a great experience. He went on to Cornell, and he's since founded multiple companies. He's a serial entrepreneur. He started with PeopleSoft, then he went to Workday, and now he's at Ridgeline. So very few people. He's already taken 2 of the 3 public, and I'm sure Ridgeline will go public. Mm-hmm. And I mean, how many people have taken 3 companies public?
I don't know any.
Elon Musk, maybe? I don't know. The list is pretty short. Mm-hmm. So he's incredibly successful, and he made an extremely generous gift in 2020, and the project finished up in 2022. And it was a STEAM project, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And what we did was 3 distinct projects. One was a culinary lab. Second one was digitizing the TV studio and adding a recording studio.
Similar to this. Yes.
Exactly. And the third one was the makerspace, the internet innovation space. Mm-hmm. And these kids that are teenagers are using college grade or commercial grade equipment now, fabricating, these incredible pieces of technology and these outputs, and they show them in presentations. They compete in DECA, they compete in engineering club. So there's just a remarkable relationship that we've developed with Dave Duffield and his wife Cheryl.
Yeah, it's amazing. Actually, one of the kids that worked in the sound studio went straight to Broadway. He didn't pass go. He just went from Ridgewood High School to Broadway working the boards. It's amazing.
It is.
It's incredible.
And obviously, Duffield's contribution to the school is huge, but that didn't just happen overnight. There was some big lifting from some of the folks in the Alumni Association to highlight the need and get the attention. And I mean, I don't know if you want to go in a little bit into that, or maybe that's not the most important topic to cover.
No, I mean, any relationship takes time to develop. And the bigger ones are going to probably take even longer. So, if you're lucky enough to even get yourself at the table, which we were, and build that relationship, it pays off.
Yeah.
For years, forever, essentially. So,
he left a legacy, really, in Ridgewood. That's his legacy. And also Hohokus. Yeah. I know he donated a lot of money to Hohokus, too, right?
But you make a very good point. Like, think about it. What do you care if you have to give your money back to? Giving back to the places that really had a profound impact on your life.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. He went back to the Hohokus school, gave them a great gift, came to Ridgewood High School, gave us a great gift.
Yeah.
His mom was a school teacher.
Yeah, over in Hohokus for years. And guess who replaced his mom as math teacher?
I don't know.
The now superintendent over at Hohokus.
Oh, wow.
And the story is crazy.
Yeah.
So, you don't make up those connections. Those stories are real. And, I think listen, if I had to put myself in his shoes, I'm just imagining that there's a lot of value, a lot of great memories.
Yeah.
That he's holding on to, and it's great. It's just been a gift to have that relationship.
And so he's one of the big notables. So can you name me? Well, first of all, I guess I kind of want to know, what is the actual mission of the Ridgewood High School Alumni Association? If you had to, can you quote it verbatim?
Well, I wasn't prepared to quote it verbatim.
It's okay. It's okay.
But look, we're here to celebrate and enhance like the mission of the alumni, the tradition of excellence. That's obviously the school motto. I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about the Distinguished Alumni.
Please, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah,
yes.
Because that's the highest honor that Ridgewood High School can bestow on alumni is the Distinguished Alumni Award. And so it's an award that was created in the early days of the Alumni Association. And it goes to an individual who has made a material impact on society. And it could be across, personal interests, talents, career achievements, social community service. So we've purposely opened the definition of who can receive this award because we really wanted to get that cross look at who we want to honor. And so, if you look at, we just had our most recent Distinguished Alumni Awards in September of this past year.
Yeah.
It was a terrific event. So what I realized with the help of the board that I work with was that we used to have Distinguished Alumni as a dinner event in the spring. And then we had a bunch of class reunions happening in the fall that we would help out with and assist with. And then it was actually one of the trustees said, well, why don't we change our direction here and move this Distinguished Alumni event into a particular weekend, call it homecoming weekend, and then ask our classes that are celebrating these milestone reunions to all activate around that weekend. And so,
and really honor those people, right?
Yeah. And so going back to what you mentioned, Tom Gorman, 1986, he was the principal at the time who kind of, visioned this thing out. One of his vision was to take a prep school, private school approach to Ridgewood High School and bring that to Ridgewood High School through homecomings and raising capital to help, the high school fill some of these needs.
It's brilliant. It's such a brilliant idea.
And look at Ridgewood. It looks like a private school.
Yeah.
I have people come from other towns. They're like, is this really a public school?
It's Hogwarts.
It's a beautiful facade, beautiful building. It does have some pain inside.
Yes, it does.
But those are things that we've kind of identified, and we're gonna hope to try to fix. With all the different groups that are kind of committed to this.
So how can people get involved with the Alumni Association? Like, what's the key catalyst for if someone's listening, they went to Ridgewood High School, they say, oh my God, this sounds right up my alley. What do they do next?
So obviously they have to have graduated from Ridgewood High School, as you said. But if they don't have to be in town. I mean, I think sometimes we have people that move away and they're like, I can't be involved. We do have trustees that are not from Ridgewood. I mean, certainly is probably easier if you are from Ridgewood, but our website is rhsalumniassociation.org. All of our contacts are on there. I'm easy to find as well.
GroupSpot.
On GroupSpot. I'm also, LinkedIn and
Right.
et cetera. But yeah, we have a small board, but we're always looking to add great people, people that are willing to kind of roll up the sleeves, get their hands dirty. That's kind of, we're looking for doers. Because it's the big difference between us and the private schools. The private schools, in their alumni association efforts, they have full staff, paid people.
Right.
We're all just volunteers.
That's right.
That's the biggest difference. And as you know, working with volunteers, it's tricky. Trying to get the commitment, because a lot of these people have full-time jobs elsewhere, and they have kids, and they have other big distractions. I'm just at a very good point where my kids are old enough that they don't need me every second of the day. That I'm able, and I have some experience and some contacts to help kind of move certain things along. And so it was just a really good time to kind of
Right.
pull the trigger here.
So I want to know what some of the things that you are looking to accomplish during your tenure as president.
I just came on July 1st, but I think number one was centralizing the homecoming weekend. That was huge. So this was the first year that we did that.
And let's
Yeah.
find out, who did you honor at that event?
Yeah, great question. We honored 4 just amazing people. They blew us out of the water. One was a Pulitzer Prize winning author, Alan Miller, class of 1972. We had Robert Hoffer. He's a very technologist. He's really early AI. His nickname's the Bot Father.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, really cute. David Madden. He actually won the second most amount of consecutive days on Jeopardy!
That's right.
TV show.
Yep.
And he's actually giving back. He's in town. He's actually a coach on the Quiz Bowl team.
Oh, that's
Which
so
is crazy.
cool. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
really
He lives
cool.
here.
Yeah, his parents do.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then lastly, Libby Geist.
Yes.
Libby Geist Wilds.
Oh my gosh,
So
she's
she
so
is an
talented.
incredible producer. She's won Emmys. She won an Oscar for the OJ series that they did. I mean, these people just blew us out of the water. And what was fantastic was, it wasn't, just like an industry speech. It was them telling us about their experience at Ridgewood High School, and the teachers and coaches that had, an impact on their lives. And it was just so different and so cool that anybody that was in that room was lifted up, and they just came up to us after the fact and said, "That was incredible. Can you do that every year?" And so that's actually one of my goals. I know it's ambitious, and the trustees kind of hate me sometimes for this, but I would love to make, a Distinguished Alumni an annual event
Yeah.
over homecoming weekend, and let it be the centerpiece that it should
Yeah.
be of that weekend.
And I tell you, the whole town gets to celebrate these people. It's such a joy to see that people, that our neighbors are out there making a huge impact on the world. It's awesome. So I'm so proud of you. Thank you for all that you do. It's amazing. I mean, it's a lot. How about you?
No, I'm totally with it, and I think the Alumni Association does a lot. We probably don't need to cover it all right now, but where should people go if they want to learn more, or they want to get involved, or what's the best? What's the website? I guess is maybe the question
So
we all
it's
need
just
to know.
rhsalumniassociation.org. But they can reach out to me on LinkedIn and just connect. Like I said, we're looking for good people. We do a number of really amazing projects. I mean, we sell the bricks that
Oh,
that
yeah, that's
line-
right. The bricks that line, yeah.
that line the
pathways, yeah.
when the kids graduate, they walk down those pathways out to the field. It's lined with their graduation bricks. We sell banners. That people hang. They're all around Ridgewood High School, but they also can. My kid is a sophomore at Bucknell, and he's got his banner hanging up in his room.
Is that the one that goes on the fences?
Yes, so
okay,
so
you
there's
guys, do you pay for that, or do the parents pay for that,
so
or how does that work?
we commissioned that. So that was actually a great.
Oh,
great
that was
topic.
awesome. Yes.
So that was born out of COVID.
Yes.
2020.
I love that idea so
Yes.
much.
So we had a great trustee, Hope Cunningham, who was just
She's awesome.
amazing coordinator.
Yep.
She'd the group may have come up with the idea, but she was really the head person in charge of making this
She
happen.
really drove it, yes.
And so about 450 banners go up in multiple sites. It's all coordinated. We attack it first thing in the morning before anybody's
Early
awake.
in the
Nobody
morning.
knows it's coming. And, these kids, it's like an Easter egg hunt trying to find
It's
your banner.
yes.
And, they're at BF, they're at GW, they're at the high school,
Graydon.
they're at Graydon.
Yeah.
So they're all spread across the field. And then it was so popular. People were like,
You
gotta
can't stop that.
You got to do this every year. Well, it was supposed to be like a 1-year initiative.
Yeah.
But luckily now we at least share the responsibility between the work and the expense with project graduation. So
Oh,
project
that's
graduation
good.
is a group that they throw a big party for
Right.
the seniors every year. Every class has a project graduation, so it makes sense that we kind of partner with them
Yeah,
on
that
that.
does make
And it's
sense.
their kids, specifically. So they when they had the opportunity to volunteer and go hang up banners, they were like, "Please sign me up," So that was really cool.
I love that. The one thing, and I don't know if it's the Alumni Association that should spearhead this, but I think it would be so cool, like how when you were saying that Keith had the kids turn around and say goodbye to their high school. I think it would be so cool if the seniors could just find just 10 minutes to go to their elementary school and do a clap out. Have you ever seen those?
Oh yeah, I have
It's
seen.
so cool when the former students walk through and all the little elementary kids are looking at them and clapping for them. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah,
That's
one of the traditions they have is they do a senior photo at their old elementary school.
Yeah, that's really
so they
cool.
do that. So they should kind of coordinate the
Yeah.
clap out with
I
that.
think
So
Rena Christie started that whole.
Rena is in charge of the alumni photo that we take every year in June, right before graduation, of all the graduates and alumni, and then we all come out there. We hold signs of what year you graduated.
Oh,
it's a
that's
great
so
photo.
fun.
So
Yeah.
we do it every year, and
Yeah.
Rena's really the linchpin of all that.
Oh, yeah, she's awesome
She's great.
too. Yeah. I mean, there's so many unbelievably talented and brilliant people from Ridgewood High School. So I'm sure you don't have any, you're not missing any segments that need attention, but I'm sure that you could always use more people to kind of see some of these projects through.
Yeah, I'd say if we used to have a really talented teacher, Tim Monahan.
Oh my gosh, who doesn't know Mr. Monahan?
Yeah, he
Oh,
was fantastic. So he was on our board, and then he's now teaching in another district, so he's no longer on our board. But if we could get a boots on the ground teacher to join our board again, we're trying to recruit that.
Recruit somebody
That
for
would be
that.
great because it's really helpful. We actually have a student intern for the first year,
Nice.
Isabella Katsoros. She's fantastic. She was on our board meeting last night. She's doing fantastic. And then we're also trying to get a little bit better integrating with some of the other groups. So now the RHS HSA or the Federated HSA
Right.
has invited us to join their meetings and send a rep and maybe give a few updates.
Oh, that's
so they
good.
actually they're really good. They
Good.
have a great meeting. They bring in all these different bodies and they share
Yeah.
these updates, and it's really transparent.
Yeah.
And I think transparency in 2025 wins.
Oh,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure. And that's what this is all about. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's nice.
this podcast is helping our village get more information out there to the residents, and this, making sure that we have a representative from Ridgewood Public Schools come and do a piece like this every month. It's so, so important. And so with that, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and sharing all this information, both professionally, personally, and about the Alumni Association. It was really helpful.
Well, thank you for having me. You guys are great. This is a great show. And I told my board last night that I was going to be on this show, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's like a huge thing."
Yes, it is. Ignite Creator Studios.
I
right
might have to
here.
get some autographs or something before I go. But thank you for having me. That was real cool.
It was awesome.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care. We'll see you next time, guys.